Bella and Bug, a tale of healing through wild love. Before we dive into this incredible story, if you enjoy heartwarming tales of human-animal connections, please hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing stories that will touch your heart. The morning mist clung to the forest floor like a shroud, and Bella Matthews found herself staring out the window of her wildlife rehabilitation center, her coffee growing cold in trembling hands. 3 months had passed since David's funeral, yet the ache in her chest felt as fresh as the day the doctors had delivered the devastating news. The cancer had taken him swiftly, leaving her alone in a world that suddenly felt too quiet, too empty, too vast for one person to navigate. At 42, Bella had dedicated her life to healing wounded creatures and returning them to their natural homes. She understood the delicate balance required to care for wild animals without creating dependency, the careful distance one must maintain to ensure successful rehabilitation. These protocols had governed her work for over 15 years, but now, as she struggled to find purpose in her own healing, those same principles would be tested in ways she never imagined. The call came on a Tuesday morning when autumn was painting the trees in brilliant golds and crimsons. A young bobcat cub had been found orphaned after her mother was struck by a vehicle on Highway 9. The caller, a park ranger named Tom, explained that the cub appeared to be only 6 weeks old, her eyes barely open, her survival entirely dependent on human intervention. "I know you're not taking new cases right now, Bella," Tom said gently, his voice carrying the weight of understanding. Everyone in their small community knew about David's passing, knew that Bella had been struggling. But there's no one else within 100 miles qualified to handle a bobcat cub. It would just be temporary, until we can find a permanent placement. Bella closed her eyes, feeling the familiar pull of duty warring with her desire to remain cocooned in her grief. But something in Tom's description of the tiny, vulnerable creature stirred something deep within her chest. Perhaps it was recognition of a fellow orphan, or maybe just the muscle memory of compassion that had defined her career. "Bring her over," she heard herself saying. "I'll take care of her until you find somewhere else." When Tom arrived that afternoon, Bella wasn't prepared for what she saw. The tiny bobcat cub, no bigger than a house cat, was wrapped in a soft towel, her golden fur marked with the distinctive spots that would fade as she matured. But it was her eyes that stopped Bella cold, large, amber pools that seemed far too knowing for such a young creature, holding a depth of loneliness that mirrored her own. "The kids at the ranger station have been calling her Bug," Tom explained, carefully transferring the cub to Bella's experienced hands. "She's so small, and the way she curls up. Well, you'll see." The moment Bug settled into Bella's arms, something extraordinary happened. Instead of the typical fear response Bella expected from a wild animal, Bug began to purr, a deep, rumbling sound that vibrated through the tiny body. Then, in a gesture that would come to define their relationship, Bug reached up with her small paws and gently placed them on either side of Bella's face, her amber eyes staring directly into Bella's own. It was, unmistakably, a hug. Bella felt her breath catch. In 15 years of wildlife rehabilitation, she had never experienced anything like this. Wild bobcats, even as cubs, typically maintained their natural wariness of humans. They might tolerate handling for feeding and medical care, but they didn't seek out affection, didn't initiate contact, and they certainly didn't hug. Yet here was Bug, this impossibly small creature, offering comfort in the most human of gestures. That first night, Bella set up Bug's enclosure in the rehabilitation center's nursery, a temperature-controlled room designed for the youngest patients. She prepared the standard feeding schedule, the proper formula mixture, the careful protocols that would ensure Bug's healthy development while maintaining the appropriate distance necessary for eventual release. But Bug had other plans. Every time Bella approached for feeding, Bug would immediately reach for her, those tiny paws seeking contact, that distinctive purr filling the quiet spaces of Bella's grief. During feeding, Bug would curl against Bella's chest, one paw resting over her heart as if sensing the deep wounds there. It was as if this small wild creature understood something about healing that Bella had forgotten. As days turned into weeks, Bug's unique behavior became more pronounced. She would wait by the enclosure door each morning, standing on her hind legs with her front paws pressed against the mesh, clearly anticipating Bella's arrival. When Bella would enter for daily care routines, Bug would immediately approach and wrap her developing arms around Bella's leg, nuzzling against her with an affection that defied every textbook on wild animal behavior. Bella found herself looking forward to these moments with an intensity that surprised her. For the first time since David's death, she was sleeping through the night, her dreams filled not with loss but with the warmth of small paws and gentle purring. The tight knot of grief in her chest began to loosen, not disappearing but transforming into something more manageable, more bearable. Asterisk, if you're enjoying this incredible story of healing and connection, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more amazing tales of human-animal bonds that will restore your faith in the power of love. Asterisk, as Bug grew, so did her capacity for affection. At 3 months old, she had developed a ritual that never failed to bring tears to Bella's eyes. Each morning, when Bella would enter the enclosure, Bug would approach slowly, deliberately, and then rise up on her hind legs to place her front paws on Bella's shoulders in what could only be described as a proper embrace. She would hold this position for several seconds, purring deeply, her face nuzzled against Bella's neck. These weren't the brief, functional interactions typical of wild animal care. These were moments of genuine connection, of mutual comfort, of love given and received without reservation. Bella knew she should be concerned. Every protocol she had ever learned about wildlife rehabilitation screamed warnings about imprinting, about creating dependencies that would make Bug unsuitable for release. She consulted with colleagues, read research papers, and agonized over the ethical implications of Bug's behavior. But she couldn't deny the healing that was taking place not just for Bug, who was thriving under this unconventional care, but for herself. The deep depression that had settled over her after David's death was lifting, replaced by a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in months. The situation became more complex when Bug began extending her affectionate behavior to others. Bella's friend Eleanor, who had been checking on her regularly since David's passing, was initially nervous about meeting Bug. Eleanor had always been wary of wild animals, preferring to admire them from a safe distance. "I don't know about this, Bella," Eleanor said, standing hesitantly outside Bug's enclosure. "She's gotten so much bigger. Are you sure she's safe?" Bug, now 6 months old and the size of a medium dog, seemed to sense Eleanor's nervousness. Instead of her usual exuberant greeting, Bug approached slowly, sitting down just inside the enclosure and extending one paw through the mesh in what appeared to be an invitation. Eleanor looked at Bella with amazement. Is she asking me to touch her paw?" When Eleanor tentatively reached out, Bug gently pressed her paw against her palm, purring softly. Within minutes, Eleanor was inside the enclosure, experiencing her first Bug hug, tears streaming down her face as this wild creature offered comfort she didn't even know she needed. "I've been so worried about you," Eleanor whispered to Bella later. "But seeing you with her, seeing how she responds to you, it's like she was meant to find you." The most profound demonstration of Bug's unusual gift came during a visit from Leo, the 8-year-old son of one of Bella's veterinary colleagues. Leo's grandmother had recently passed away, and he had been struggling with nightmares and withdrawal. His father, Dr. Martinez, brought him to the center hoping that some time with the animals might help. Leo was initially shy, clinging to his father's hand as Bella showed them around the facility. But when they reached Bug's enclosure, something shifted. Bug, now nearly full-grown but still remarkably gentle, approached the fence where Leo stood and sat down, tilting her head in what Bella had come to recognize as her listening posture. "She's really big," Leo whispered, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. "She is," Bella agreed softly. But she's also very gentle. Would you like to meet her properly?" With his father's permission, Bella brought Leo into the enclosure. Bug's response was immediate and tender. She approached the boy slowly, lowering herself to his height, and then did something Bella had never seen before. Bug gently touched her nose to Leo's cheek, a gesture so soft and careful it seemed to acknowledge the boy's fragility. When Leo began to cry, speaking for the first time about missing his grandmother, Bug settled beside him, one large paw resting protectively across his lap. They sat together in comfortable silence, a grieving child and a wild animal who somehow understood that healing sometimes requires nothing more than presence and unconditional acceptance. The legal challenges of keeping Bug permanently were significant. Bobcats are protected wildlife, and rehabilitation facilities are expected to release their patients whenever possible. Bella spent months navigating permits, inspections, and regulations. She had to prove that Bug was genuinely unsuitable for release, not because of physical limitations, but because her unprecedented level of human bonding made her incapable of surviving in the wild. The process was expensive and emotionally draining. There were moments when Bella wondered if she was making the right choice, if her own need for Bug's comfort was clouding her judgment about what was best for the animal. But every morning, when Bug would greet her with those gentle embraces, every evening when they would sit together in comfortable companionship, Bella knew that some bonds transcend conventional wisdom. The defining moment came during a distemper outbreak at a nearby facility. Several of Bella's animals had been exposed, and the stress of potential loss triggered the worst anxiety attack she'd experienced since David's death. She found herself hyperventilating in Bug's enclosure, overwhelmed by fear and the familiar sensation of helplessness that grief had taught her. Bug's response was immediate and instinctive. She approached Bella, who was sitting on the ground struggling to breathe, and carefully wrapped her powerful arms around her shoulders. Bug held her there, purring deeply, providing a steady, warm presence that gradually helped Bella regulate her breathing and find her center again. "You saved me," Bella whispered into Bug's fur that night. "You saved me in ways I didn't even know I needed saving." As Bug matured into a magnificent adult bobcat, her affectionate nature never diminished. If anything, it became more sophisticated, more attuned to the emotional needs of those around her. She seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to sense when someone needed comfort, adjusting her approach accordingly, gentle and careful with children, strong and steadying with adults, playful with those who needed joy, calm with those who needed peace. Word of Bug's remarkable nature spread throughout their community and beyond. Wildlife biologists came to study her behavior. Journalists wrote articles about the unusual bond between woman and bobcat, and families traveled from neighboring states hoping to experience Bug's healing presence. But for Bella, Bug remained simply the creature who had reopened her heart when she thought it would remain forever closed. In the quiet moments of their daily routine feeding time conversations, evening grooming sessions, the comfortable silence of shared space, Bella found not just healing from her loss, but a new understanding of love itself. Bug taught her that love doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Sometimes it comes in the form of wild paws gently placed on grieving shoulders, purrs that vibrate through the darkness of depression, and amber eyes that see past species barriers to recognize a kindred spirit in need of comfort. Years passed, and Bug became something of a local legend. Children would ask their parents to drive by the rehabilitation center, hoping to catch a glimpse of the hugging bobcat. Bella received letters from around the world, from people who had heard Bug's story, and found hope in it, hope that healing can come from unexpected sources, that love transcends our understanding of what's natural or normal, that sometimes the very thing we think we're saving ends up saving us instead. On quiet evenings, when Bella and Bug would sit together watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Bella would often think about David. She knew he would have loved Bug, would have marveled at her gentle spirit and laughed at her more playful moments. More importantly, she knew he would be glad that Bella had found her way back to joy, back to purpose, back to the business of living fully. Bug never did make it back to the wild, but perhaps that was never her intended destination. Perhaps her purpose was always to be exactly where she was, in a spacious, naturalistic enclosure surrounded by love, serving as a bridge between the wild world and the human heart, teaching everyone who met her that healing often comes wrapped in the most unexpected packages. As Bella reflected on their journey together, she realized that Bug had given her something more precious than comfort in grief. She had given her a new understanding of her own capacity for love. Through gentle embraces and patient presence, a wild creature had shown her that the heart, no matter how broken, always retains its ability to open again, to connect again, to find joy again. This incredible story of Bella and Bug reminds us that healing and love can come from the most unexpected sources. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like and subscribe for more amazing tales of connection, resilience, and the extraordinary bonds that exist between humans and the natural world. Share this story with someone who might need a reminder that even in our darkest moments, love finds a way to reach us. In the sanctuary that Bella had created, not just the physical space of Bug's enclosure, but the emotional sanctuary of their bond. Two wounded souls had found exactly what they needed: acceptance, comfort, and the radical healing power of unconditional love. Bug's gentle embraces had indeed reopened Bella's heart, creating a legacy of compassion that would touch countless lives for years to come. And every morning, as Bug would rise up on her powerful hind legs to wrap her arms around the woman who had saved her, they both knew that in the mysterious mathematics of love, it's impossible to say who had rescued whom. If you enjoy the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.